How's your faith? One of the first times I ever stepped foot in Washington, D.C., I contemplated this question. I had come for a rabbinic student seminar. That's right, a girl who grew up the road in New York City came to D.C. for the first time when she was 26. We met with Jewish religious leaders about transformative and innovative leadership styles. We were learning, they said, about how to change the Jewish world. And then, to our surprise, we met with former NBC Chief White House Correspondent David Gregory. Sometime after September 11th, 2001, Gregory was asked, "How's your faith?" by none other than President George W. Bush. Can you just imagine that, being asked that by President Bush? Like, what chutzpah of President Bush? Gregory, a member of Temple Micah up the street, was on a spiritual journey at the time, and he ended up entitling his memoir, "How's Your Faith?" We read the memoir in anticipation of our meeting, and I was enthralled. Gregory spoke about failure, shame, the human experience of feeling and fearing our limitations. And he spoke about God, about the way God helps when other outlets fail. As he spoke about his experiences in discovering fear and faith, I cried. I was becoming a rabbi, and at the same time, my father's dementia was getting worse. Fear and faith were all I knew. The question stuck with me. I have even spoken about this before. How's your faith reverberates in my mind, coming up at different life and world moments, nagging and asking, well, that happened, so how's your faith now? After a year of too many gunshots, too many words of hate, after another year of deadly hurricanes and uncontrollable fires, it feels high time to ask again, how's your faith? How's our faith? This is not a red state, blue state question, but rather a deeply Jewish one. Right in the beginning, Adam and Eve ate from the forbidden tree of knowledge. From the very first bite, they realize they are naked. They try to hide from God. In response, God wanders through the Garden of Eden and calls out, "Ayeka, where are you?" One must believe that God certainly knew geographically where Adam and Eve were. What was God really asking? This is not a question of location. Is Adam behind this tree or that? Our tradition teaches this question is one of faith. What are you doing? What do you believe? Ayeka, where are you? Our mystics teach that in every age, God addresses every person with the question, where are you in your world? God and the mystics ask, and I ask today, where are you? How's your faith? These are not easy questions. To answer honestly can be terrifying. Where are we? Looking out, I know, many of us are in mourning. Immediately following a death, houses fill with people, phones never stop ringing. But then the house grows quiet. People stop calling. We become lonely. We fear that the house may never be full again. Where are we? Many of us never realized the goals we set out to accomplish last year. Now here we are, again. We fear we will never be the people we want to be. We fear we will never be enough. Where are we? Many of us, thank God, have had beautiful years. Years of love and joy, years where we have had our greatest highs, gotten promotions, celebrated our successes, marriages, births, b'nai mitzvah, and still, we fear. We fear that this happiness will end, that the other shoe will drop. How's our faith? Ayeka? Where are we? we are fearful. Whether we have had the greatest year of our life or the hardest, fear can underlie so much of our day-to-day. How can we possibly answer, how's our faith, when we fear what that answer could be? Adam was fearful too. When God asked Adam and Eve this ayeka question, Adam responds with fear. I heard the sound of you in the garden, Adam says, and I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Adam is vulnerable, exposed, and brave. This is the first time Adam speaks to God. Up until this point, God commands and commands Adam with no response. But here, only when Adam feels fear does Adam respond back to God. Only in this vulnerable state can Adam engage with the divine. We respond to God through fear as well, often at the bedside of a loved one or alone in our own beds, wondering what has come of the world, of our community, of our lives. We reach out to something bigger, something greater, anything for us to grasp and feel we have some sense of control. Each week at services, we recite a prayer out of fear. We ask God to heal those in our lives who need it the most. We recite Mishaberach Avotenu V'Imotenu, may the source of strength help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. We state before God, yes, that our loved one needs healing, but we too need strength. We too are vulnerable, exposed, and afraid. And while we may not always believe that God will directly heal our loved one, we will take a leap of faith and ask anyway. Because after we have tried everything else, what's left but prayer? Those moments in our chapel and sanctuary feel different. There is a murmuring as people recite names, but then there's a calm, an exhale, as a community prays through fear together. Fear can bring us to God, but fear can also bring us to community. Fear can bring us to one another. Adam is not the only one in our tradition to talk to God, finding faith in a place of fear. When the Israelites stood at Sinai, they witnessed a mountain full of smoke and rolling thunder. They heard the commandments through a booming voice and fell back, exclaiming to Moses, "Please, you speak to us and we will obey, but do not have God speak to us, for we will surely die." Moses, not the most compassionate leader, responds with, "Do not be afraid." I think in the history of the phrase, "do not be afraid," no one has ever felt less afraid when told not to be afraid. The Israelites were afraid, and we would have been too. What happened on that mountain must have been miraculous, an event none of us can imagine. It must have been so different, so elating, so out of the ordinary, that it also must have been terrifying. So too with the miraculous in our lives. Seeing the one we love on our wedding day, the birth of a child, watching that child grow and change and become their own person, realizing that we've actually done a little good in the world, that we have helped someone against all odds. These events, too, are different, elating, out of the ordinary, and terrifying. In our inability to understand, our inability to control, we rely on faith to allow us to witness the miracle, appreciate it without falling back, without shrinking away. Fear does not contradict faith. In our tradition, fear produces faith. Fear and faith go hand in hand. Just look at the Hebrew. When Adam tells God he is afraid, he says, "Va'ira," I am afraid. When Moses tells the Israelites not to be afraid, he says, "Al tira'u," do not be afraid. This word, maybe you heard it, that occurs in both, yirah, fear, is one of the most profound words in the Hebrew language. For yes, it means to be afraid, but it also means to be in awe. Fear and awe are different sides of the same word. How would our stories be different if we translated Adam and Moses' exclamations not as fear, but as awe? Ayeka, God would call out. I ate from the tree, Adam would say, and I was in awe. I was in awe of my body, of this world. I was in awe of your creations, and so I hid because I was overwhelmed. The world was just too good. The Israelites would plead to Moses, don't let God speak to us, you do it. And Moses would exclaim, no, stop. Be in awe. The thunder is booming, the smoke is billowing. This is miraculous. And this is your God. This is your holy relationship. Stand here and take your place. What if fear led us to awe? Not to sugarcoat all that has gone wrong and will go wrong in our lives and in the world, but to reframe. What if we looked at our empty homes not only with fear of what once was and will never be again, but also in awe of all that we have been given within those walls? The smiles, the laughter, the scraped knees, the absurd arguments, the love, the family. We can be in awe of the legacies we have and will continue to create. What if we looked back on our year not in fear of all we did not get done, but in awe of all we did do? We woke up each morning. We made plans with friends. We told family we loved them. We worked. We volunteered. We lived. We can be in awe of all we are able to do. What if we looked at the simchas of our year, our joys, not in fear that that happiness is now gone, but rather in awe that we can be that happy, that one day, one event, one moment can elevate us for days, months, and years to come. We can be in awe of the happiness we have felt and the happiness we will feel again. I could not have imagined during that first visit to DC that I would end up making a home here. After a year of living here and being your rabbi, I can tell you, my faith is full of both fear and awe. I have felt them daily. I feared officiating my first funeral, bar mitzvah, first wedding, and then I was in awe of the way you all let us into your lives, into your families, in awe of the love you have for one another, in awe of the love you have for this place. I stand here in awe of the congregation before me and the holiness that exists right here. So how's our faith? Full of fear. How's our faith? Abundant with awe. Where are we? On this Rosh Hashanah, we are here in this sanctuary, declaring that we're somewhere between fear and faith, delicately balancing in the life in between. We look out into an ever more frightening world, and it is scary. We allow the fear to propel us towards one another. We allow the fear to propel us towards God. We look out into a world that is awesome. We allow the awe to lighten our path as we go. Shana tova umituka. May it be a good, sweet, faithful, fearful, and awesome year for us all.